Stop. Before you swipe, before you breathe, before you spend another coin today, check your pocket now. I'm serious, because right now, somewhere in your change, there could be hidden wealth pretending to be nothing. A silent fortune that nobody talks about, that cashiers don't see, that friends would laugh at you for checking, until you realize collectors are fighting over these things in real auction rooms. This is real auction shock. These coins change everything. And the scariest part? People are spending them every single day. Do not spend these coins. Today, we're uncovering Washington quarters that look normal, feel normal, but can quietly flip your life upside down. Each one is rarer, scarier, and more valuable than the last. And you're going to want to stay till the end, because what comes next is even bigger. Today, we're uncovering shocking Washington quarter-dollar coins that are worth insane money at auction. These are the kinds of coins collectors are secretly fighting over, and the craziest part? One of these 5 coins could be sitting in your pocket right now, and you might spend it without ever realizing what you just lost. First up, there are some coins that scream for attention, and then there are coins that hide. This one hides so well that it's probably already passed through more hands than you can imagine. A 1944 Washington quarter with an S mint mark doesn't look dangerous. It doesn't look loud. It doesn't look rich. It looks tired. It looks old. It looks like something you'd toss into a tip jar without thinking. And that's exactly why this is one of the most terrifying coins to ignore. Because this is not fiction. This is the kind of quiet, ordinary-looking piece of metal that can secretly be a life-changing opportunity. Think about the year first. 1944. The world was on fire. The United States was deep in World War II. Factories were screaming day and night. Metal was being rationed. Pressure was everywhere. Economic, emotional, industrial. The entire country was in survival mode. When a nation is under that kind of stress, money isn't made calmly. Coins aren't produced gently. Everything is rushed. Everything is pushed. And that pressure does something strange to coinage. It creates mistakes, it creates shortcuts, and it creates rare survivors that were never supposed to make it this far. This quarter was struck in San Francisco. A tiny little S under the eagle on the back is the difference between a normal, forgettable coin and something collectors lose sleep over. And here's the trap. Most people never even look for it. They see a dirty old quarter and move on. But collectors, they lean in. They tilt it under the light. They check the surface. They check that mint mark like their heart rate depends on it. Because this is one of those years where condition is everything. An original condition is almost impossible to find now. Hold one of these in your hand, and you feel history before you feel money. It has that solid, confident weight, about 6.25 grams of real silver-era substance. The diameter is around 24.3 millimeters, wide enough to feel serious in your fingers. The thickness is just under 2 millimeters, but the girth of it, the presence of it, feels bigger than that. It's not a flimsy modern coin. It feels dense, honest, like it was built to survive something. And it was. On the front, you've got Washington's portrait, calm, serious, almost tired. On the back, the eagle stands with its wings spread, strong, symmetrical, proud. But on high-end surviving examples, what collectors are hunting for isn't just the design. It's the surface, the skin of the coin, the untouched, never messes with, never polished, never scrubbed metal. The kind of original toning that only comes from decades of quiet aging. Sometimes it's dark, sometimes it's smoky, sometimes it has that antique, almost mysterious glow. And that look is money. Here's where people destroy fortunes without even knowing it. Cleaning. If you ever find one of these, and your first instinct is to make it shiny, you just erased a massive part of its value forever. Collectors do not want shiny. They want honest. They want original. They want the story written on the surface. Cleaning a coin like this is like sanding down an antique painting because you don't like the cracks. Never clean this coin. Original toning matters more than most people will ever understand. Now let's talk about why survival is so rare. These were used. Hard. During wartime, coins didn't sit in drawers. They moved. They got dropped, scratched, bent, melted, lost. And the San Francisco Mint was under intense production pressure, which means fewer perfect examples were made to begin with. At 80 years of wear, accidents, and human carelessness, and suddenly a truly well-preserved 1944 with S becomes something collectors fight over quietly. And when I say fight, I don't mean yelling. I mean that dangerous, silent kind of competition. Auction rooms where nobody talks. Bidders who don't blink. People who have been waiting years for the right example. Because once these go into strong hands, they don't come back. Collectors hold them. They lock them away. Supply shrinks. Demand climbs. And the price pressure just keeps building. In old antique condition, the kind that still has its original skin, its original character, its original story, these have reached around $108,000. Let that sink in. For a quarter, a coin you could literally have in a cup holder, a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten pocket. That's not pocket change. That's hidden wealth. That's a silent fortune. That's serious, life-changing money. And the tiny details? Oh, this is where it gets obsessive. The sharpness of Washington's hair, the feathers on the eagle, the clarity of the date, the exact look and position of that little S mint mark, even the way the light moves across the surface. This detail changes everything. Most people miss this. Collectors don't. If you ever think you've found one, the first thing to check is the year, then the mint mark. Then, and this is critical, don't touch it more than you have to. Don't rub it. Don't wipe it. Don't try to improve it. And don't guess. Professional grading is critical with a coin like this because the difference between nice and historic can be 6 figures. This is why patience creates wealth in this hobby. The people who win are the ones who wait, who look carefully, who don't rush, and who don't destroy what time has protected. Because coins like this don't announce themselves. They sit quietly, waiting for someone who knows what they're holding. So I'm saying it clearly, do not spend this coin. If you see a 1944 quarter with an S mint mark and an old, honest antique surface, you might not be holding change. You might be holding a fortune. And stay right here, because the next coin makes this one look almost reasonable. And what comes next is rarer, more shocking, and even more dangerous to ignore. Next up, this is the kind of coin that ruins people, because they never even realize what they just did. It doesn't look old enough to be dangerous. It doesn't look rare enough to be scary. It looks normal, boring, spendable. The kind of quarter you'd drop into a vending machine without a second thought. And that's exactly why the 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark is one of the most brutal traps hiding in plain sight. This is not fiction. This is one of those coins that turns a normal day into a lifelong regret. 1967 was not a calm year for American money. The country was in the middle of a massive monetary shift. Silver was disappearing from everyday coins. The government was panicking about hoarding. People were pulling real money out of circulation. So the U.S. Mint did something radical. They removed mint marks entirely from coins for a few years to stop collectors from stockpiling them. No D, no S, no P, just nothing. A blank space where identity should be. And in that chaos, under insane production pressure, some extremely unusual and extremely valuable survivors were born. On the surface, the design looks familiar. Washington's portrait on the front, steady and quiet. The eagle on the back, wings spread, proud and balanced. But the devil is in what you don't see. No mint mark. That missing little letter is what makes collectors lean forward in their chairs. That absence is what makes auction rooms go quiet. Because this coin comes from a period when everything was rushed, everything was stressed, and quality control was not the priority. Pick one up, and it feels different from the older silver quarters. By 1967, these were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of silver, a layered metal sandwich that was never meant to be cherished, only used. And yet here we are. The weight is about 5.67 grams. The diameter is still around 24.3 millimeters. The thickness is about 1.75 millimeters. The girth in your fingers feels familiar, almost forgettable. And that's the danger. It feels like nothing special, until you realize what you're actually holding. Here's what makes this coin emotionally terrifying. Almost none of them survive in truly original, problem-free condition. They were made to be spent, and spent they were. Millions of hands, millions of pockets, millions of scratches, drops, and scrapes. So when a 1967 quarter shows up in very fine condition, still sharp enough to show real detail, still honest, still not destroyed, collectors pay attention. When one shows up with the right look, the right strike, the right surfaces, and the right story, they don't hesitate. Look closely at Washington's hair, the lines in the face, the feathers on the eagle. These are the tiny details collectors obsess over. Most people never see them. Most people never care. But this detail changes everything, because it tells you how much of the coin's life is still intact. And then there's the surface. Some of these develop a soft, natural toning. Sometimes it's gray. Sometimes it's slightly golden. Sometimes it's darker and moody. That look, that untouched, never messed with skin, is where the real value lives. And this is where people destroy a fortune without even knowing it. If you clean this coin, polish it, shine it, improve it, you don't make it better. You kill it. You erase the evidence of its survival. Never clean this coin. Original surfaces are everything. Now let's talk about why this specific year created something so rare. 1967 sits right in the middle of America's coin identity crisis. The silver era was ending. The public didn't trust the new coins. The mint was under pressure to flood the market with change as fast as possible. Speed over perfection. Quantity over quality. And that kind of environment creates two things: mountains of junk and a microscopic number of coins that somehow escape with the right look. Most of these quarters are still worth exactly 25 cents. That's what makes this so cruel. The valuable ones hide among millions of normal ones. They live in jars, in drawers. In old collections, nobody checks anymore. Most people miss this, and some of them spend what could have been hidden wealth without ever knowing it. When the right 1967 no-mint mark quarter appears, properly preserved, properly graded, with the right eye appeal, collectors do not argue about it. They compete, quietly, aggressively, because these don't come up often, and when they disappear into a serious collection, they can stay gone for decades. Supply is shrinking. Demand is not. And that pressure is exactly how you end up with auction results pushing around $166,000. Let that number sit in your head for a second. For a quarter that looks like nothing, that feels like nothing, that people are still spending every single day. That's not just money. That's a silent fortune. That's a life-changing opportunity disguised as pocket change. If you ever think you've found one, the first thing to check is the date. Then confirm there is no mint mark at all. Then stop. Don't rub it. Don't wipe it. Don't test it. Don't try to make it pretty. And don't assume. Professional grading is critical here, because the difference between interesting and historic can be the difference between a story and a house. The biggest mistake people make is impatience. They rush, they clean, they guess, and they destroy what time and luck protected. The people who win in this game are the ones who wait, who look carefully, who understand that ugly, honest, untouched coins often beat shiny ones every single time. So hear this clearly. Do not spend this coin. If a 1967 quarter with no mint mark and a strong, honest look crosses your path, you might not be holding change. You might be holding serious money. You might be holding something collectors have been quietly hunting for years. And don't go anywhere, because the next coin is even older, even more mysterious, and makes this one look easy to find. What comes next is rarer, more shocking, and even more dangerous to ignore. Next up, if you saw this coin on the ground, you'd probably walk right past it. I'm not kidding. It looks ugly. It looks tired. It looks like something that's been through a washing machine, a parking lot, and a bad decade. Blackish spots, grime in the letters, a dull, almost embarrassed surface. The kind of quarter people actually avoid touching. And that's why this one is so dangerous, because this is the exact kind of coin that hides a silent fortune in plain sight while everyone else is too busy judging it. 1980 doesn't feel ancient. It doesn't feel historic. It feels modern, safe, spendable. And that's the trap. That year sits in a weird moment in American history. Inflation pressure, economic anxiety, a country still trying to find its footing after the chaos of the 1970s. Money was moving fast. Coins were being made fast. The system cared about volume, not perfection. And when you mix speed, pressure, and huge output, you get something strange, a mountain of ordinary coins, and a microscopic number of monsters hiding among them. This one comes from Philadelphia. The P-Mint mark is there, small and easy to ignore. On the front, Washington's portrait looks familiar, almost boring. On the back, the eagle stands with wings spread, proud but worn down by time. Nothing about the design screams treasure, and that's exactly why most people miss this. By 1980, quarters were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, not silver, not glamorous, just a layered metal sandwich built to survive abuse. The weight is about 5.67 grams. The diameter is roughly 24.3 millimeters. The thickness is around 1.75 millimeters. The girth in your fingers feels completely normal, forgettable, like every other quarter you've ever held. And yet, one specific kind of survivor from this year has collectors acting completely irrational. Here's the twist. The blackish spots, the dirt, the dark patches, that ugly, almost neglected look can actually be part of what makes certain examples special. Not because dirt itself is valuable, but because it can protect the surface underneath. It can preserve original metal. It can hide untouched skin from decades of wear. And when the right 1980 with P quarter shows up with the right underlying surfaces, the right strike, and the right story, collectors stop breathing for a second. This is not about pretty. This is about authentic, about original, about untouched. And this is where people commit the worst mistake imaginable. They try to fix it. They clean it. They scrub it. They polish it. And in 10 seconds, they erase 6 figures. Let me say it clearly. Never clean this coin. Never. That dark, dirty, ugly look might be the only thing standing between you and a life-changing disaster. Look closely at the tiny details. Washington's hairlines, the sharpness, more softness of the lettering, the eagle's feathers, the rim, the way the light dies on the surface instead of bouncing off it. This detail changes everything. Collectors don't see a dirty coin. They see a potential survivor from a brutally overworked minting year. Why is survival rare? Because these were not saved. Nobody in 1980 was carefully setting aside quarters. They were spent, destroyed, lost, ground down by circulation. So when one appears that still has the right bones, even under dirt, even under dark spots, it becomes a target. And when the right one hits the market, the behavior is almost creepy. Nobody makes noise. Nobody brags. They just bid, quietly, aggressively, because they know two things. First, they don't come up often. And second, once one disappears into a serious collection, it can vanish for a generation. Supply is shrinking. Demand is not. And that pressure is how you end up with auction results reaching around $158,000. Read that again. For a dirty 1980 quarter, that's not a joke. That's not hype. That's hidden wealth wearing ugly clothes. That's a life-changing opportunity that looks like something you'd reject from your change. So what should you do if you ever see one like this? First, check the date. Then, check for the P mint mark. Then stop. Don't rub it. Don't wash it. Don't try to see what's under the dirt. And don't assume it's junk. Professional grading is critical here because the difference between worthless and historic is invisible to untrained eyes. The biggest mistake people make is rushing. They think value comes from shine. It doesn't. In this world, value comes from survival, from patience, from leaving things alone. So hear this and remember it. Do not spend this coin. If a 1980 with P quarter with dark spots, grime, and an oddly strong underlying look crosses your path, you might not be holding trash. You might be holding serious money. You might be holding a silent fortune that everyone else would throw away. And stay right here, because the next coin is even more unbelievable, older, stranger, and so easy to underestimate that it's probably being spent right now while you're watching this. What comes next is rarer, more shocking, and even more dangerous to ignore. Next up, this one doesn't scare you by looking ugly. It scares you by looking normal. Clean enough, ordinary enough, safe enough to spend without a second thought. The 1981 with D Washington quarter is the kind of coin that quietly slips out of your life and then stays in your memory forever after you realize what it could have been. This is not fiction. This is one of those coins that turns a boring afternoon into a permanent regret. 1981 was a tense year for the US. Economy. Inflation had been squeezing people for years, interest rates were brutal, and everyone was nervous about money. And when a country is under that kind of pressure, the mint doesn't think about beauty. It thinks about speed. Coins were being pushed out fast, machines were working hard, and quality control was not the star of the show. That kind of environment doesn't usually create treasures, but sometimes it creates accidents that become legends. This one came from Denver. The tiny D mint mark sits there like it's doing nothing special. On the front, Washington's portrait looks calm, steady, almost forgettable. On the back, the eagle spreads its wings in that familiar, confident pose. You've seen this design 1,000 times. And that's the danger. Most people miss this because their brain says, I know this coin. But collectors don't look at it that way. They look at the year, the mint, the condition, the story. By 1981, quarters were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. Not silver, not flashy, just a layered metal core built for circulation. The weight is about 5.67 grams. The diameter is roughly 24.3 millimeters. The thickness is around 1.75 millimeters. The girth in your fingers feels exactly like every other quarter you've ever held. And that's what makes it so easy to throw away a life-changing opportunity. Here's where it gets serious. Almost nobody saved 1981 quarters. They were everywhere. They were boring. They were just money. They went into pockets, machines, parking meters, and floor cracks. So when one survives in very fine condition, still showing strong details in Washington's hair, still showing feather structure on the eagle, still looking honest instead of destroyed, collectors start paying attention. When it survives with the right look, they start competing. Look at the surface. The skin of the coin matters more than people understand. Some of these have that soft, natural, slightly aged tone that tells you nobody tried to improve it. And this is where fortunes die. Someone decides to clean it, to polish it, to make it better, and in seconds they erase the very thing collectors are willing to pay for. So let me say it clearly and slowly. Never clean this coin. Original surfaces are everything. Shine is the enemy. This detail changes everything. Why is this year special? Because 1981 sits right in a strange, overlooked pocket of modern US. Coinage, production numbers, minting priorities, and circulation behavior created a situation where truly nice survivors are far scarcer than anyone expects. Millions were made. Almost none were respected. And now, decades later, the supply of high-quality examples is quietly drying up. When the right 1981 with D shows up, the auction behavior is not loud. It's surgical. Bidders don't joke. They don't hesitate. They know they might not see another like it for a very long time. And once one disappears into a serious collection, it often doesn't come back. Collectors hold these. They don't flip them. That's how demand keeps rising, while supply keeps shrinking. And that pressure is how you get prices reaching around $140,000. Let that hit you. For a quarter that still looks spendable. For a coin that could be in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten roll right now. That's not pocket change. That's hidden wealth. That's a silent fortune, pretending to be nothing. So what should you do if you think you've found one? First, check the date, 1981. Then look for the D mint mark. Then stop. Don't rub it. Don't wipe it. Don't test it. Don't try to make it pretty. And don't assume. Professional grading is critical because the difference between nice and historic is something only experts can confirm. The biggest mistake people make is impatience. They rush. They clean. They guess. And they destroy what time and luck protected. The people who win are the ones who wait, who look carefully, who understand that in this world, value comes from survival, not shine. So hear this and remember it. Do not spend this coin. If a 1981 with D quarter in very fine, honest condition crosses your path, you might not be holding change. You might be holding serious money. You might be holding a life-changing opportunity that almost everyone else would throw away. And don't move, because the next coin is even more misunderstood, even easier to ignore, and somehow even more dangerous to spend. What comes next is rarer, more shocking, and hiding in a place nobody ever looks. Next up, this is the kind of coin that gets ignored on purpose. It's not shiny. It's not pretty. It's not impressive. It looks old, tired, dirty, like it's already lost the fight. The kind of quarter that ends up at the bottom of a jar, under a car seat, or in the return slot of a vending machine. And that's exactly why the 1984 with D Washington quarter is so dangerous. Because this is not fiction. This is one of those coins that hides serious money inside something people don't even want to touch. 1984 was a strange moment in America. The economy was shifting again, inflation's scars were still fresh, and everything was about speed, volume, and movement. The mint wasn't thinking about collectors. It wasn't thinking about perfection. It was thinking about flooding the country with coins. Machines were running hard. Dials were wearing out. Coins were being struck fast and sent straight into circulation. And when that happens, most coins are born tired, and almost all of them die that way. This one came from Denver. The little D mint mark is there, quiet and easy to miss. On the front, Washington's portrait looks familiar, almost invisible, because we've all seen it 1,000 times. On the back, the eagle spreads its wings in that same confident pose. The design isn't the story. The survival is. By 1984, quarters were made from copper-nickel-clad metal, not silver, a layered core, built to be used, abused, and forgotten. The weight is about 5.67 grams. The diameter is roughly 24.3 millimeters. The thickness is around 1.75 millimeters. The girth in your fingers feels completely normal, which is exactly why your brain tells you this is nothing. But here's the part that changes everything. Some of these 1984 with D quarters, especially the ones that have lived hard lives, develop deep dirt, dark patches, and that old, exhausted look. And most people assume that means they're ruined. But sometimes that grime is the only reason the surface underneath survived. Sometimes that ugly shell is a shield. And this is where people destroy a fortune in seconds. They wash it. They scrub it. They polish it. They try to see what's under there. And in doing that, they erase the very thing collectors are hunting for. Let me say this clearly and slowly. Never clean this coin. Never. That dirt might be the difference between nothing and $100,000. Look closely at the details. Washington's hair, the lettering, the eagle's feathers, the rim, even under wear, even under dirt. The structure of the coin tells a story. This detail changes everything. Collectors aren't looking for pretty, they're looking for right. Why is survival so rare? Because nobody saved these. Nobody thought 1984 quarters mattered. They were used in arcades, parking meters, grocery stores, gas stations. They were dropped, scraped, beaten, lost. So when one shows up that still has the right bones, the right strike, and the right underlying surfaces, even if it looks ugly, it becomes a target. And when the right one hits the market, the behavior is the same every time. Quiet, focused, aggressive. Nobody jokes. Nobody hesitates. Because they know two things. First, these don't appear often. And second, once one disappears into a serious collection, it might not come back for decades. Collectors hold these. They don't sell them. And that's why supply keeps shrinking, while demand keeps climbing. That pressure is how you end up with auction results reaching around $100,000 for a dirty 1984 quarter. Read that again. That's not pocket change. That's hidden wealth wearing rags. That's a silent fortune pretending to be trash. That's a life-changing opportunity sitting in places nobody ever checks. So what should you do if you think you've found one? First, check the date, 1984. Then, look for the D mint mark. Then stop. Don't rub it. Don't wash it. Don't test it. Don't try to make it look better. And don't assume it's worthless. Professional grading is critical because the difference between junk and history is invisible to untrained eyes. The biggest mistake people make is impatience. They think value comes from shine. It doesn't. In this world, value comes from survival, from originality, from leaving things alone long enough for time to do its work. So hear this and remember it. Do not spend this coin. If a 1984 with D quarter that looks old, dirty, and tired crosses your path, you might not be holding trash. You might be holding serious money. You might be holding a silent fortune that almost everyone else would throw away. And this is the part that should honestly scare you a little. Because every single coin in this video looks ordinary. None of them look rich. None of them look special. And that's why people are spending hidden wealth every single day without even realizing it. Right now, in your house, your car, your drawers, your jars, your old bags, there could be a silent fortune sitting there, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Most people will never check. Most people will never know what they lost. So go back, re-watch, check your coins. And remember, do not spend these coins, because the next time, we're going even deeper. The next list includes coins that are even rarer, even scarier, and so easy to overlook that people are throwing away life-changing money without ever knowing it happened. Stay right here, because what comes next is even more dangerous to ignore.